Presence opens up your eyes, and pleasure turns up the color. And then once you're here and it feels good to be here, it feels like something happens. You stop waiting for the possibilities and you start living and leading. You start stepping into yourself, into your power. You start to live and lead confidently. You trust in yourself and in your voice, and you get to show up with such deep richness. You get to live and lead from your power, and that is incredible. So that is what today's episode is all about stepping into your power and leading from your own empowerment in your own authentic way. Welcome to a new episode, and I'm so excited today to dive deeper into all things power. Over the last 2 episodes, we spoke about how presence builds this foundation where our nervous system can feel safe, it can arrive, it can land, actually learning how to be here in the here and now with ourselves, actually being able to be in each moment, moment after moment, coming back to connection after being in a place of disconnection. And then we moved into pleasure, which was really opening up through the senses, seeing things from this reframe of saying, how can I see the beauty of life? How can I awaken into the beauty of life? How can I bring more color into my life, more indulgence, more enjoyment, more delight? How can I give myself the permission to actually feel good and to do more things that feel good and to receive what is really available to us in every moment? How do we turn these ordinary moments into extraordinary moments and cultivate more moments of deep pleasure for ourselves? And now we get to go so much deeper into power. Power is it's the ultimate moment, right? This is the thread that we've been creating through these episodes and this whole series is you can't step fully into your power and into your leadership if you already have a dysregulated nervous system. Maybe you can, but it's so much harder. It's so much harder to create and to build from a body that feels dysregulated and disconnected and that is running on empty, or that his mind is not here but there and everywhere. And you can't really access your power if you're putting yourself down, if you're not really experiencing life to its full potential. It dims down who you are, and it can dim down your life. You're kind of editing yourself down and editing down the potential of what you're here to experience. Presence and pleasure, they're not just these soft skills. They're deeply a foundation for power, for you to step into your full complete potential of leadership, of self-confidence. Everything you've been doing has been preparing yourself for this, for you to step into yourself, into your vision, into your purpose, and get to move and live through your life with deep empowerment and confidence and trust in yourself. For me, stepping into my power felt like stepping into my leadership. It felt like really trusting myself and building a life that really felt good for me, that felt very authentic to me, not what other people had outlined for me or what society felt like it was the way for me to move forward, not the way I should perform for other people, but it was about getting to know and listen to my own authentic voice and to start to ideate and create a way for me to step into myself, into my goals, into my dream of my life, and into myself as a leader from a place that felt deeply true and authentic from me. Something that was rich and authentically me. After all of those years working in San Francisco, I was starting to incorporate and learn some of these tools that I'm sharing with you, but I was still in those jobs that were sucking so much out of me. And I went through a deeply intense burnout. I was burnt out. I was so exhausted. And this was years in the making as well, right? There was so much pile up of academic burnout and then going into the corporate world and then experiencing deep work burnout as well. It all culminated into a moment of deep exhaustion. I had to leave my job and give myself the time that I needed to nurture and to care. I was exhausted. I spent about a whole month sleeping. I remember my parents getting quite upset at me because they were like, "Why aren't you doing anything but sleeping?" And I didn't even understand it myself at the time, but I was exhausted. I needed to just sleep. I was sleeping 10 to 12 hours a day, barely leaving my bed. I needed deep rest. I was exhausted and I needed to give myself that time and that space to recover first and foremost. And then I started looking more towards the future, and I took some time to travel and I started doing my coaching certification because I had worked with a coach myself, and I was like, wait, I want to also be able to provide this space for other people. This is a beautiful thing that I'd like to also continue growing into. So I was doing my coaching certification and I started traveling. I took about a year to just travel. And I remember my purpose when I was thinking about why am I traveling? What am I doing? Was I wanted to look out the window and think. That was my biggest purpose when I was traveling. I wanted to look out the window and think. And I had these visions when I was sitting in buses and on trains and in cars and on planes where I would just look out the window and I would think. I would think about what my ideal life would look like. Think about what living a life that felt really uniquely mine would look like. What it felt like to live a life that was empowering to me, that felt true and authentic to me, that didn't make me shrink, that didn't make me small, but that actually allowed me to shine, that had the circumstances that allowed me to really be happy and feel good and feel fulfilled inside of myself, inside of my own life, where I could wake up every day and find joy and connect to joy. I would be there and I would think and I would go through a million different situations and experiences to think about what would feel really rich and purposeful for me. How can I build a life and do work that actually feels empowering to me, that feels true and honest to who I am? So, a year of thinking clearly supported me in getting to where I am today because it made me have to get very real about what is authentic, right? The most important thing for me was keeping it authentic, keeping it me. There are so many voices in the world, and life is not one size fits all. So what is going to work for me? What are the things that are going to make me feel good and make me feel empowered and purposeful in this life? Because what that's going to look like for me is going to be maybe very different to what it looks like for you. It's not this one size fits all. So what does it look like to actually think about authenticity and what living a life that feels deeply authentic to me feels like? A lot of this was taking the time to listen to myself, my desires, express and think about my core values. What are my core values? Develop the self-trust with myself, also develop self-confidence with myself to create this life because it takes guts, it takes balls to go against the grain and say, I'm going to do something different. So I also had to build a lot of self-confidence within myself to say, okay, I'm going to take this leap and I'm going to go for it. I had to do a lot of discernment as well to listen and to know what feels right for me and what does not. How can I listen to myself and to my body? When is my body telling me, oh yeah, this feels like something really aligned and really good. We should move in that direction. And when does something say, this doesn't feel really good. So maybe let's not go that way. Let's pivot. Let's reshift. It was a lot of reflection, but it gave me the time and the space to hone in on that, to hone in on my self-confidence, on my authenticity, on my trust. So when I felt ready to make the change and to push forth the life that I wanted to live and lead for myself, I had the confidence and I had the trust and I had the vision. I also had to start to challenge so many narratives around myself, right? What would I do if I wasn't afraid? And how can I walk hand in hand with that fear? To say, hey, fear, I see you, and we're doing it anyways. And what limiting beliefs did I have inside of my own head that were holding me back, that were keeping me small, that were telling me I couldn't do certain things that actually I could do, right? So much is about what you believe about yourself, and that is what can hold you back the most. We all have these thoughts and doubts inside of ourselves that are keeping us small, that are keeping us worried, that are limiting us. Limiting beliefs literally limit you. I'm not worthy of this. I can't do this. I'm not smart enough. I'm not capable enough. Bullshit. Bullshit. I call bullshit. I call bullshit on all of that. I believe that you are worthy of that you can do that you are smart enough, that you are capable enough, that you can experience anything that you want to experience, that you are worthy of all of the love and the cherishment and the celebration, and you have everything that you need to carve your own paths. We need to reframe these beliefs inside of our own mind to remind ourselves that we can do everything. How we speak to ourselves deeply matters, right? Our brain is absorbing whatever thoughts you are giving to them. If you are latching on to them, if you are latching on to that voice that is telling you, I'm not good enough, I can't do that, it's going to be so much harder to punch through there and actually make it happen. But what if you tell yourself, I can do this, I am worthy of this, I will make it happen for myself? Then we're so much more likely to actually be able to go and move forth with it. And here's where the science actually comes in too. Because looking at ourselves and our brains and studying neuroscience actually really helps enlighten so much of why this is pivotal to our understanding, right? We can hear about it and anecdotally, like, oh yeah, I can change the way that I think. And when we think about it, it makes sense. But actually, we can change our brain and the way that it functions. Our brain can learn and our brain can adapt and change and rewire itself. There's this beautiful ability for our brain to learn and to reshape itself, which is called neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity means that we have this ability to change specific wirings and connections within our brain. We can see them a bit as like building blocks and building roads, right? If we say and we do something enough, we can build a road inside of our own mind that helps us get from point A to point B. There's this Hebb's law, which is really spoken about within the concept of neuroplasticity, which says that neurons that fire together wire together, which means that the more that we do or say or practice something, we create these building blocks, these roads where we get to go quicker from point A to point B. So when we are firing through this repetition, we create these roads that could eventually become highways and so on and so forth. Now, this can change functionally, meaning we can change the way that we think or act or our behavior, but actually through time, through consistent and repetition, we can actually structurally also change our brain. We see this so much in people who, for example, long-term meditators can change the structure of their brain through doing this repetitively and with consistency. So know that you have the power to change your brain. You have the power to rewire your brain. We have some beautiful studies around affirmations and how they can actually change and shift the way we see our own self-worth, the way we can adapt our problem solving, get better at problem solving, and have more creativity. So we're actually able to rewire our own brain by changing these limiting beliefs. By instead of telling ourselves, I can't do that, I'm not good enough, what if we tell ourselves, I am good enough, and I can do that, and I am worthy of that? Think about what that does inside of your brain when you do that consistently and with repetition, how that opens up a million different avenues for you to create, to find opportunities, and to grow into a beautiful version of yourself that can literally do anything and everything that you set your heart towards. The story that you've been telling yourself, the story of what you're capable of, you have the power to change it. So know, especially if it's one that's bringing you down, that feels like it's holding you small, that story is not the truth. That story is not the truth. You have the power to shift it, to change those neural pathways, and to make yourself grow from there deeply, deeply, deeply. Know that you can always change and shift these beliefs and change these ways of thinking and these patterns within yourself and within your brain. So know that you have the power. We're not doing positive thinking just for the sake of it. We're literally building new architecture in our brain. We're literally building these roads and these highways through more and more practice. There is a reason, and I want you to deeply believe this. When I was living in San Francisco and I was incorporating so many of these different aspects and learning them for myself, because that was a big pivotal moment for me when I went from a really low and started to really change my life, I started to actually write on my mirror. I got these markers that you could write on glass, and I covered my mirror where I did those beautiful shower rituals. That was where it all began. I covered that mirror with affirmations. I can do this. I am capable of anything that I set my heart to. You are beautiful. I am sexy. I believe in myself. I am worthy of anything that I want. Whatever affirmations felt good for me in that day, I changed them very routinely. I would consistently go through and add new ones and change them depending on what I needed, but I would write them on my mirror. My mirror was covered. It was like I had the little centerpiece where I would stand, and around it was full of affirmations. But seeing them, I repeated these to myself, so much so that eventually they just became a part of who I was. I knew them to be true. I didn't have to convince myself of these affirmations. They were just part of who I was. I believed that I was worthy. I knew that I was capable. I believed in myself. And that didn't happen overnight. That was practice. And then going back to what I shared in the episode of presence, it may be simple, but it's not easy. These things require practice, and they require us showing up and actually making the change and taking this agency for ourselves. But I want you to know that you can do this. It's not something that you need to find or fix. It's something that you can build. It's a practice. It's something we bring in. And every time we make a shift, every thought, every behavior, every action, we can shift and change our own relationship to ourselves to step fully and deeply into ourselves and into our power. So what does power actually look like on the inside? It looks like self-trust, trusting yourself, trusting your ability to make your own decisions and trusting those decisions, trusting your voice and honoring that voice, honoring your body, your mind, and knowing that if it's nudging you towards a certain direction, trusting that. It's also about self-confidence. Self-confidence gets built through this trust, and it's not just this performative kind of self-confidence that requires external validation. It's this self-confidence to know that you've kept these promises that you've shown to yourself, this self-confidence to know that you can navigate and handle anything that life throws at you, and to know that you are showing up in a way that feels good and exciting and authentic to you, that you get to do the hard things, even when it's difficult, but you trust yourself. You know within yourself that you have the power and the ability to do it. It is deep confidence in who you are. It's also about authenticity, right? Expressing yourself, being deeply rooted in your values, sharing from a place that feels real for you, not needing to edit yourself or bring yourself down depending on who you're with or the different rooms, but just being able to show up, knowing what you stand for, knowing the change that you want to make, knowing what it is that you're building, and using that clarity as your centerpiece, this gravity to keep you anchored, to say, I know that this is authentic to me, and that is what matters to me. Again, connects deeply with the self-confidence, because authenticity connects to our self-confidence. If we're being authentic and we feel confident in ourselves, that will shine from the inside out. It also looks like having a vision, knowing where we're going, what we're working towards, what we're building, having a sense of direction that feels deeply yours, that feels so good to you, when that came from inside of you, not from what was expected of you or what society was telling you to do or the stepping stones that were laid out in front of you for you to take, but actually a vision that feels deeply natural and deeply good for you, and one that feels exciting for you because you are creating it for yourself, being grounded to your vision and knowing that you have something to work towards. It's things like understanding your core values and really allowing yourself to lead from your core values, knowing what your full body yes looks like when your body says yes. What does it look like, and how can we listen to those yeses, reframing those limiting beliefs, and knowing that you can rewire anything inside of your own brain if something is keeping you small, a thought, a behavior, a habit that is holding you back, you have the power to shift it. Your brain can support your endeavors. It can lift you up. You can create proper goals that work with your brain, and that will lift you. You have the power. Proper goal setting is also key, because when we can set proper goals, we can live and move forward with so much more momentum and clarity and purpose. Goal setting gives me momentum because I know that I can achieve them. I know that it's something to work towards, and we have this movement towards that our whole body can be there. Through all of this, we're continuously building this sense of self-trust and your self-confidence, really being able to feel good and confident in who you are, in your heart, in your energy, in your leadership, in your creative self-expression, in your art, whatever art it is that you are making your art and sharing your art and expressing and being there. Gratitude, sharing gratitude, cultivating gratitude, sharing your visions for life, cultivating this joy and this gratitude in your everyday life, and getting to share it with your community, because we are nothing without our community, right? So then once we are cultivating and creating this, how can we give back and use this power and this energy to give back? There's also a beauty in navigating difficult times through this lens of joy and empowerment, and know that that is completely and totally possible. It's about reminding ourselves of our power, of the beauty, of what it is that we are creating, of that vision that we have. So give yourself the time and the space to build this power and to let that lead. With all of this, you're going to truly get to step into your leadership with power, with authenticity, with self-confidence, with deep trust, and knowing that you're creating a leadership way and a way of stepping into empowerment that is true and honest to you. Not to anyone else, but to your own vision of your life, to who you are, and to what your authentic expression of empowerment looks like. And now I want to give you a little taste of what this looks like, not just as a concept, but as a real experience in your own body. Because power is not something that we can really think our way into. It's something we actually need to feel, and then we can grow into. So if it's accessible for you to have a moment to close your eyes and go a bit into more of a meditative state, please do so. If you're in movement, please make sure that you are keeping safety first and find a way to connect with this that feels right. It will only be a few minutes, and then we'll connect back to the rest of the episode, so you can just listen along or do the practice if you feel good. And when you are ready, I'm going to invite you to just close your eyes, soften your gaze. Take a deep breath in and out. And I want to invite you to envision the version of you 5 years from now. The version of you that is done waiting, that is done performing, moving forward from a place of deep empowerment. A person that chooses themselves every day, that feels deeply present in themselves and in their own life, that has experienced so much pleasure, that is opened to pleasure, and brings pleasure into everything that you do. That is empowered in who they are, in their voice, in their authenticity, in their leadership. What does it look like to be them? How does this version of you hold yourself? How do you move? What qualities do you see in this person? Is it a general sense of groundedness, of not rushing, of not forcing, but just of being? How are you standing? What clothes are you wearing? What are you doing? How are you carrying yourself? What did this version of you stop waiting for? What did this version of you start doing? This version of you, they know who you are. They trust in who they are. They know what their yes looks like. They know what their no looks like. They've stopped putting themselves down. They've stopped shrinking themselves and believing those limiting beliefs. They've built this version of themselves. They've built this version of you through practice, thought by thought, choice by choice, behavior after behavior, practice after practice. Observe and be with this person. Be with this version of you 5 years from now, deeply in your power, in your presence, in your pleasure. And step into that version of you. What does it feel like to be that version of you? What have you created? What relationship do you have with yourself? What relationship do you have with the world? What change in the world are you making? What beliefs do you hold about yourself and your capability? Know that you are capable of anything, and this version of you is already inside of you. It is you. Now, when you are ready, you can gently bring your awareness back into yourself and into the room, into whatever space you are in. Welcome back. This version of you that you just connected with is right there. It's deeply accessible. Make a promise to yourself to connect to something. Whatever you can do this week that helps you connect to that version of you. Is it connecting more with that presence? Is it opening up deeply into that pleasure? How can we step more into that leadership and that empowerment that we saw you stepping into? This is a version of you that already exists within. So give yourself the space to integrate that, to make one choice this week that will support you in stepping into that version of you, stepping into becoming closer to being that version of you 5 years from now. This gets built through practice, thought by thought, action after action, behavior after behavior, practice after practice. What can we do this week to get us closer to that? What I've been sharing across these last few episodes, the pillars of presence and pleasure and power, they're the foundation of everything that I do. They're the framework of everything that I teach. The space that I hold, the clients that I work with, it's the basis, the foundation of it all. I've gone through this journey myself, and now I get to share it with you. I've spent the last year building something that holds these 3 pillars in its full depth. It has practices, it has lessons, it has meditations, it has neuroscientific deep dives for you to learn all about the science of it, workbooks, all different kinds of support that will give you the support that you need for this everlasting change. It has 14 hours of video content, as well as meditations and recordings and workbooks and guides and practices and so much more. So much more. And it's called The Awakening. I'm introducing it properly for the first time at a free event on May 4th that'll happen online called Awaken into Joy. At Awaken into Joy, we're going to go through specific practices. I'm going to teach some more about my specific learnings and these tools and the foundations of it, and I'll share everything that's inside with you there. You can register for the event. Down below, you'll see a link in the email or in the Substack. However you received this podcast, know that there is a link there for you to register. And there's a super special little something inside there for all of you who attend. So really looking forward to sharing all of this with you all. It's deeply one of the biggest heart shares that I've ever had in my life. It's been the culmination of so much of my own experiences, my own transformations, my own work that I've put into myself and my own life that now I get to share with so many of my clients and the incredible human beings that I've had the gift and honor of holding through. And now I get to share it with all of you. So I hope to see you there on May 4th. Register, and I'll see you there. Thanks for listening to this whole series. I hope you enjoyed it. Please reach out if anything comes up, and sending you off with a whole lot of love from Laya.